The abyss was discovered about 2,000 years ago on a lonely island. A city called Ort was built around it. There is an orphanage in the city where new seekers are raised and trained. Seekers are those who descend and follow the abyss. There they find artifacts. These are original items that often have unusual properties. Depending on the usefulness and uniqueness of these artifacts, a price is set. After that, they are sold abroad, thanks to which the city flourishes and the profession of seekers develops. The abyss is interesting in that it is divided into levels. There are 7 layers in total. The bottom line is that each level has its own curse. The deeper the level, the stronger the curse. Everyone can go down, but going up is already a test. When climbing even 10 meters inside the abyss, a person will experience from slight dizziness and nausea to loss of humanity or leaving to another world, but it depends on the depth. Therefore, the profession of researchers is in great demand, and this is taught from early childhood. They are divided into ranks, from the bell, a beginner in this matter, to the white whistle, the most powerful seeker. Our protagonist, the red whistle, is the one who independently descended to the first level. Her name is Riko. She is an orphan, lives and studies at the Belchero orphanage. She and the other orphans are taught by the leader to be seekers, who possesses a moon whistle that gives him the right to teach. One of the lessons is the descent to the first level. There, Riko was attacked by a flying kite, but an unknown shot saved her from leaving for another world. Then she went to look for her savior. It turned out to be an unconscious robot with a human appearance. Riko tried to wake him up, but did not wake up, so she dragged him to her shelter to thank him there. It was possible to wake this guy up only with the help of a discharge. It turned out that he had lost his memory. He came from the depths of the abyss, but why he does not remember. Then Riko and her friends came up with a name for him. Now his name is Reg. She placed him in a shelter under the guise of an ordinary boy, because if someone knew that he was a mechanism that arrived from the abyss, then he would immediately be dismantled and sold abroad. The fact is that he is the most valuable artifact of the abyss, but even he himself does not know about it. One day, a white whistle and securities were brought to the surface, in which previously unseen creatures of the abyss were shown and described. It turned out that all these things belong to Riko's mother, whose name is Lisa. It is she who is the white whistle and the legend of her city. Everyone reveres and respects her. Lisa was considered dead, but in those things that were brought to the surface, they found a letter addressed to Riko, which said that Lisa was waiting for her at the bottom of the abyss. After what she saw, Riko had the motivation to find her mother, and she began to prepare for the trip to the bottom. Reg goes there with her because he wants to understand who he is. Therefore, one night they reached a place where you can secretly get to the first level. With the help of Reg's lengthening arms, they began to descend, and so began their journey to the bottom. If the red whistle goes down to the second layer, and our heroes are just red whistles, then this will be regarded as a departure to another world, and no one will go to save this researcher. At this level, when climbing up, a person experiences severe nausea and headache. This layer is interesting because it contains a camp of seekers, which serves as a staging post for explorers. It is home to the legendary white whistle Ozen. She is considered one of the strongest seekers due to the fact that artifacts are sewn into her body. During the descent, Reg heard cries for help, and when they ran to the place where the sounds came from, it turned out that they were made by the corpse mourner, a creature capable of imitating the screams of its victims. They hunt in packs, and one of the corpse mourners grabbed Riko and dragged him to his nest. Reg tried to save her with his extending arms, but was prevented by another mourner. Then, out of desperation, he attacked them with a powerful laser from his hands, from which he almost destroyed Riko. After that, Reg lost consciousness. It turns out that 10 minutes after using this ability, he turns off for 2 hours, and this is a big problem because all this time Riko is without protection, and absolutely everything can destroy her. Riko and Reg made it to the Seekers camp, where Riko experienced the rigors of climbing from the second level for the second time. There they met Ozen, who immediately humiliated them and showed her disgust towards them. But she still agreed to shelter the guys for a while. Ozen gave them a test and made Reg protect Riko from her because he has to protect her from everything. When he started losing to the white whistle, he decided to use his power and attack Ozen. However, she easily missed his strike and launched powerful attacks against Reg to test his durability. After some time, Reg passed out due to the fact that he used his laser. When Ozen finally finished testing Reg's strength, Riko, all in tears and snot, rushed to hug him, and then Ozen realized how much they value each other. Then she began to tell them everything she knew. Riko's mother, Lisa, was Ozen's student and close friend. Let Ozen be such a person, but as a mentor she is beyond praise, and it was she who taught Lisa everything. We also learned that once Lisa and other white whistles were assigned the most important task, they needed to get a level 4 silent bell that could stop time. For the sake of this task, many whistles went to another world, but the moment they found the bell and were about to raise it to the surface, Riko was born. But she was born a little dead. Because of this, Ozen placed her in a kind of protective cradle. Imagine her surprise when the stillborn Riko suddenly came to life thanks to this club. It turned out that the protective cradle not only protects the creature placed there from the curse of the abyss, but is also able to resurrect it. After that, they threw the bell, and with the help of joint efforts, they raised the heavy cradle to the surface. Also then they again descended into the abyss and still raised the soundless bell. All resurrected beings soon left for another world due to the fact that they had a strong desire to go to the bottom of the abyss, and only Riko managed to live so many years after that, but still not without problems. Even though the cradle resurrected her and even protected her from all sorts of stress when rising to the surface, Riko still has a side effect, and it shows in her eyes. She wears glasses not because of poor eyesight, but due to the fact that without them, she becomes very dizzy. Therefore, she was given special lenses that neutralize this effect, so that she can live in peace. Ozen then gave Riko and Reg a hunger game by sending them to survive in the forest for 10 days and setting conditions for Reg. He cannot use his ability due to the fact that after using it, he loses consciousness for 2 hours, leaving Riko without protection. It would seem that she sends them on a posthumous mission, but in fact this is such a manifestation of care. Reg and Riko, with the help of teamwork, were able to hold out in this forest and even managed to destroy one monster. Getting stronger and braver, Riko and Reg thanked Ozen for the experience. As a gift, she gave Riko a weapon formerly owned by Lisa called the Eternal Pick. It is interesting in that with sufficient impact force, gunpowder is released from it, forming an explosion. It used to be used by explorers to find artifacts, but Lisa found a use for this pickaxe as a weapon. However, the Eternal Pick is badly damaged and can only withstand a few hits. After saying goodbye, Riko and Reg went into a huge hole in the abyss. This is the 3rd level of the abyss, and it is called the Great Rift. At this level, when ascending, a person experiences auditory and visual hallucinations. While descending, they encountered a flying monster from which they were saved by Reg's laser. But immediately after the destruction of one monster, a second one came to them, the same scarlet snake that had already attacked Riko earlier. Realizing that Reg would soon lose consciousness, he began frantically looking for a place where he could switch off so that everyone was safe. They fell into some hole, thereby finding a place where Reg could sleep peacefully. He passed out for 2 hours, and all Riko had to do was just sit next to him and do nothing. But since she has a beautiful whistle, she decided to go look for food along with Reg lying around. They ended up in the stomach of some monster. Riko was able to get out of there. It turned out that the only road leading to salvation leads uphill. Therefore, along the way, Riko began to hallucinate, and even she met her mother in them, urging her to give it all up and return to the surface. But Riko has great willpower and gets to the top. Their rest was interrupted by a scarlet serpent, which once again attacks them. At this moment, Reg wakes up, and with the help of an eternal pickaxe, he powerfully attacks the monster, because of which he was forced to fly away from there. At this 3rd level, the end came, and Reg and Riko got to the 4th level, the Giant's Cup. This layer has such a name because of the huge plants. They are filled with hot but not scalding water. Due to the steam scattering light from the surface, everything appears bluish. At this level, when ascending, a person experiences unbearable pain and suffering. Time is distorted in the abyss, and the deeper our heroes sink, the slower time passes for them. For example, one day at the 4th level is equivalent to several days on the surface, and this is due to the fact that time is distorted by a force field that becomes stronger depending on the depth of the abyss. During the descent through the 4th level, they even had time to rest, but they were prevented by another Tamagotchi monster. These are huge monsters that live on the 4th layer. The 5 holes on this monster's face are a force field trapping organ, thanks to which Tamagotchi is able to predict the future actions of his enemies. Also dangerous are its poisonous and very sharp needles, with the help of which Tamagotchi broke through the defense of the main characters and poisoned Riko. In order to save himself and give Riko first aid, Reg had to quickly lift her to the nearest goblet, which was at a high altitude. But since the curse of the abyss intensifies in this level, Riko had to endure unbearable pain. In addition, the arm that Tamagotchi had stung became severely swollen, causing Reg to detach it to prevent the venom from spreading all over his body. Riko lost consciousness, and out of desperation, Reg decided to use all his trump cards and began to cry over her body. His brilliant plan worked as Nanachi came to cry. In appearance, she has a hair appearance, but at the same time she calmly communicates with Reg. Nanachi helped Reg give Riko first aid, and then dragged them to her lair to continue tending to her. But in order to save Riko's life, they need to get the aquatic mushrooms that are on the back of the mushroom. When their host goes to another world, these mushrooms inject their nutrients into it, which is why the host can live on. When Reg obtained the aquatic mushrooms, Nanachi began sewing them up instead of Riko's hand. Then she went on the mend, but still did not regain consciousness. While Riko was recovering, Nanachi introduced him to her friend Mitty. The fact is that for a long time, they were both ordinary girls from a shelter. One day, Bondrewd, an incredibly strong and popular white whistle, came to them, who invited them to go down with him and his team into the abyss to the 5th level, where they would become seekers. Many children followed him, as did Nanachi and Mitty, who dreamed of becoming white whistles, but it turned out that he experimented on them. Bondrewd tried to find a way to avoid the curse of the abyss. To do this, he placed children in 2 capsules and lowered them to the 6th level, from where he raised them up at high speed. Because of this, the curse of the abyss acted on the children, and they all went to another world. It was Nanachi and Mitty's turn. During the test, Bondrewd said that due to the nature of the capsule, the curse would only target one of the girls, namely Mitty. During the ascent to the top, Mitty began to experience unbearable pain, and after that she lost her humanity and became a dummy. Nanachi, in turn, received a blessing that turned her into a hare form due to Mitty's high regard for her. Nanachi was the first who managed to maintain humanity, and Mitty became immortal. Bondrewd experimented on Mitty and revealed that she was recovering from strong attacks, but at the same time she was crying and in pain due to the fact that she still had reflexes. Unable to withstand such lawlessness, Nanachi took Mitty and fled from Bondrewd to the 4th level, where she built a hut in which they are. Nanachi decided to teach Reg how to fight Tamagotchi, telling him that if he concentrated too much on one action and then did another, it would put the monster into a stupor, causing him to be grabbed by the main organ. This is exactly what Reg did, thanks to which he almost destroyed Tamagotchi. But at the last moment, the monster dropped its needles and fled. Reg was very grateful to Nanachi for taking care of Riko, and in addition teaching Reg about these useful tricks. He invited her to become their partner, and together with them go down to the bottom of the abyss. Nanachi agreed, but on one condition, Reg had to destroy Mitty. The fact is that she is unconscious and cannot conduct any dialogue, but at the same time she feels pain and has already endured a lot. Nanachi wants to put her out of her misery and free Mitty from the bonds of her body, but she can't do it herself. Nanachi tried many times to destroy her with all sorts of poisons, but instead brought her only pain and suffering. And only Reg's beam, which erases everything in its path, can save Mitty from such a fate. Through the pain, they still decide on such an act and destroy Mitty. Sometime after that, Riko comes to her senses and starts teaching Nanachi how to cook delicious food. Next will be bath procedures. Nanachi then performs a final operation on Riko's hand, after which it looks almost like before. It is quite difficult for her to move her fingers, but there is obvious progress. Then the Trinity began to prepare for a journey to the bottom, while simultaneously sending a parcel to the surface, which shows that they are alive and intact. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like and press the bell so as not to miss new videos. AniMap was with you. Bye everyone.